Welcome back. So here's a chance now to test your prediction. How did you do? What was amazing and so surprising from the results here is if you notice the gray bar and the blue bar, high reading ability students with high knowledge of baseball did almost as well as the students with very low reading ability, but a high knowledge of baseball. Do you see that? The gray and the blue are almost even in terms of performance on this test. So as long as you knew enough about baseball, whether you struggled with reading or not, you were able to do just as well as the high readers who also knew about baseball. The difference maker was knowledge, not reading ability. If you notice now the yellow and the green bars, high reading ability students who knew nothing or little about baseball did almost as poorly as the students who were low readers who also didn't know about baseball. So it didn't matter if you were a super high reader. If you didn't know enough about baseball, you did just as poorly as the students who also had low reading ability. This study has tremendous implications for instruction because suddenly we realize that even if students are struggling with reading, if we can provide enough general knowledge and background information on a lot of topics, they have a fair chance of doing almost as well as students who have historically shown high reading ability. It's very powerful. It shows that with enough prior knowledge, low ability students can succeed. Knowledge of the topic had a much bigger impact on comprehension than reading ability did, which means any student in our classroom doesn't just have one reading level, as we sometimes assume, right? Johnny, he's a low reader, but actually students have many levels depending on the topic and depending on how much knowledge they have. It's why Johnny might be sitting in his history class and he seems to not be interested and not able to read a thing. But you put him in his automotive class and suddenly he's reading manuals and he's engaging in material that is far beyond what is his reading level, but he knows enough to be able to move up and to succeed. So it makes us question as educators, what opportunities are we doing to make our readers stronger? But also, where are we taking advantage of the opportunity to build knowledge so that students can apply that knowledge to lots and lots of opportunities to read? All right, so that was 2 examples I gave you. The first was we talked about the philosophy text and the Charlotte's Web passage, and we learned that knowledge and vocabulary was important. We talked about the baseball study and further reinforced the fact that knowledge is important. We have one last example to look at, and we're going to go back to the high set. And I want to give you a chance to look at the impact of knowledge and vocabulary on our students. We're going to live a day in the life of a student in our classrooms. Imagine what it's like to be a student who has vocabulary and knowledge deficits, right? You don't know a lot of words. You don't know a lot of things. You haven't traveled. You kind of been in your town or your city your whole life. And, this is who you are. What is it like to face that high set and think about what it means to do a high school equivalency exam, to be able to get a job, to be able to move forward, and how important and stressful that could be for students? It's test day. It's high set day. Here we go. I am going to do a little reading out loud just to simulate what might be going through our students' minds. All right. Judicial review, the power of the courts to, the legality of governmental acts usually refers to the authority of judges to decide a law's, although state courts exercise judicial review prior to the something of the Constitution, and the something is more often traced to the, I don't know. This isn't making any sense. Let me just skip to the end. Let me maybe see if it makes more sense at the end. All right. The power of judicial review can be exercised by any court which a constitutional issues arise. I don't know. I don't know what this is. Let's just move on. Let's see if I can answer the questions. Imagine how prepared you are after reading like that and thinking like that. What is a student to do? So let's now look, what are the words or topics that might be blacked out for our least knowledgeable readers? Let's take a look at what our least knowledgeable readers may or may not know and what's standing in their way on a passage like that. The words determine, constitutionality, ratification, doctrine, prevailing, supremacy, conformity. These are words, these are vocabulary words that oftentimes when students face in an unfamiliar context, struggle to understand what they mean. And without these underlined words, you totally misunderstand the passage and have no way really of truly walking away with the comprehension necessary to answer the questions. So we owe our students a better reading experience than this. We have to help them get the vocabulary and the knowledge of the world that they need to be able to read complex text that is necessary for them to succeed in their work and in their school and in their life. It's our obligation as adult educators. It's the opportunity that we have every time we put materials in front of students. So now it's your turn. As I said, we talked about the philosophy in Charlotte's Web example. We talked about the baseball study. We talked about the high set topics, vocabulary, and student experience. I'd like you now to move to the discussion board for a quick response. And I'd like for you to post your answer in the discussion thread to this question. Please explain the role of vocabulary and knowledge in preparing students for college and careers. And please support your response with what was, in your opinion, the most compelling evidence or research from what we just discussed. I'll stop now and just give you 10 minutes to jump over to the discussion board, pause the video, and respond to this task. I look forward to discussing this with you when we meet in the live classroom.